Good morning. It is 10 a.m. and we'll call this meeting to order. We'll begin with a Pledge of Allegiance led by Commissioner Nathan Tolbert. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll begin with general public comment. This is a public comment on matters that are not on the agenda, but over which the board has jurisdiction or control. There are various restrictions to public comment listed in the agenda, and I won't waste your time by reading them, but you're welcome to read them on the agenda. We limit public comment to 3 minutes, and you'll see the yellow light go off at 2.5 minutes and the red light go off at 3 minutes. At this time, we'll open public comment. Welcome, Ms. Waller.
Thank you. Good morning. Sorry I was unable to attend, Ellie Waller. Sorry I was unable to attend final budget meetings, but when attending the earlier sessions, I felt that my specific requests were not acknowledged or even considered as being pertinent to defund some of the nonprofits that have not really specifically benefited Douglas County. First, the Prosperity Center. I do not recall any recent presentation or information provided to the public from staff or a commissioner. Next, South Shore Tahoe Management Association operations over the years have proven to be misguided, in my opinion. The use of Lake Leak should not be a mitigation for the Barton Hospital and never should have been for the event center. It has proven not to be as viable a solution for Douglas County. If it goes under because we discontinue the lion's share of funding, then so be it. Barton, Heavenly, etc. do not contribute. Why should we? The casinos do not contribute, but receive the gift of a mitigation requirement from the event center for parking fees, which none go to support microtransit. The Tahoe Chamber, duplicative work, along with the Lake Tahoe Visitors Authority and Tahoe Douglas Visitors Authority, remains unaddressed. Not enough accountability and information and audits have disclosed the event center profit and loss information as an example. Pass-through funding is a baffling term and funds not held accountable. Furthermore, Barton Hospital and Healthcare Subdistrict South Shore Area Plan update is a debacle in my mind. I've been through many of them. Beginning in 2022, I believe staff began the process. The draft area plan was introduced to Douglas County residents in June 24. A town hall meeting was held, which did not require a noticing radius. Fast forward, after lots of public interest comments and complaints, the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency ultimately determined an environmental impact statement was necessary. I will continue to state that the Latitude 39 luxury condos and event center in Douglas County were able to skate through without the much needed environmental analysis and shamefully being given the gift of environmental assessment status. The Community Development Department does not handle the Tahoe Township major projects, and the 2013 area plan and memorandum of understanding with TRPA does not allow Douglas County to approve large projects. This set up a system for the Tahoe Chamber, the South Tahoe Area Alliance of Resorts, STAR, and other stakeholders that do not and still do not represent the residents of the township or down here, only economic interests, in my opinion. They are not elected or appointed stakeholders, but seemingly control the future of Douglas County. Just because we've funded for many years or given away our rights to others doesn't mean business as usual is appropriate, and more scrutiny is needed as we have a very tight budget. Every cent counts. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Waller, and thank you for your incredible hours of poring over lots of details. Mr. Jackson.
Jim Jackson. Haven't been here for a while, so I'm going to try to catch up. A few weeks ago, a good friend of mine died of lung cancer. My question is, how many in the next 5 to 10 years are going to come down with the same disease because of the dust and everything being raised by the Painted Rock Mine? It is an absolute disaster. This could have been stopped years ago. But the board at that time chose not to. They'd rather deal with them and let them do what they want. Well, there's a permanent dust cloud out there now. In the mornings, we used to have our windows open to get the fresh air in. We can't do that now because now the dust comes in and it's not healthy dust. It's bad news. The trucks coming and going early in the morning, they wake us up now. And I know in your agreement that you made, which was not a very good agreement, they weren't supposed to start until I think it was 7 o'clock in the morning. Well, they're up there at 6 o'clock in the morning, rattling around. And not just going out there, they're coming back full at 6 in the morning. That's a violation of your agreement, I believe. They're like ants all over the roads up there. People are starting to complain now that they're seeing them everywhere. One of the big questions that comes up, people drive down the roads and see all the construction going on, and they see Knox trucks every place. They're wondering how many contracts the county has given to them since they've allowed them to go in out there. One of the comments made about the trucks is that, well, they're designed so that the dust won't come off the truck when they're traveling. Well, travel behind one of the trucks. The dust is coming off all the way down Johnson Lane, a lot of it. Our horseshoer the other day was complaining because he was stuck behind one of the trucks going down Fremont with rock coming off the bottom of the truck, not just the dust off the top. He said he had to stop and get way back, otherwise he was going to have to replace windshields and all kinds of stuff. So all these things are going on up there. They're violating almost everything in the poor agreement and stuff, and there is nothing being done to stop them. Finally, the state got involved and sent them a mitigation letter, but all they're going to do is violate that, just like they've been doing everything else, and waste the water that we all have up there. It's not just the water for Johnson Lane. It's the water that comes from the aquifer that's feeding a lot of areas in the county and stuff. They're out there spraying the water. It's an absolute waste because it dries up as fast as it hits the dirt, and there's dust all over the place. But my big concern is with that dust in the air, how many people are going to be coming down with lung cancer in the next 5 to 10 years? And that'll be on your shoulders.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. I appreciate that you noted the letter from BIA, BLM, and Nevada Department of Environmental Protection. And I do also want to note that the county is monitoring, is involved, is aware, and will continue to be so. Mr. Gibson.
Jason Gibson, civil litigator on behalf of Douglas County, House of Gibson. Most of the agenda items that are going to be passed without discussion or public knowledge are related to the JLEC institution today. And it's that same JLEC institution that they're building on the 57-acre Buckeye Road that's likely using materials extracted from Johnson Lane. And it's a Johnson Lane contract that's likely saving the county hundreds of thousands of dollars to raise that building on a floodplain 6 feet, which they would otherwise have to transport materials from Reno to do. And so that's what's really behind this, folks, is that you've been sold out to the largest investment in the history of Douglas County, which we've warned you for 4 years is going to have a detrimental impact to the quality of life in our county. And now it's too late, or so it seems. Unless you get with us in the Nevada State Assembly and correct your political status and stop electing to support this kind of governance, you have no voice, you have no standing. Therefore, the American State Nationals are here to re-educate everyone as to who they really are so that we can properly be represented and administrate the resources of this county according to the will of the people. Now, we have a number of agenda items this morning. One of them is related to this public guardian, public administrator funding. They want $5,000 a month to basically advocate for the county in misrepresenting and maladministrating our personal estates and those of the elders who are passing or who are in a situation or precarious situation in dealing with anomalies related to death in the family. In our case, it's COVID, In our case, it was the misrepresentation of Justin Clauser, the Indigent Defense Services of Douglas County, who abused the district court's authority in granting access to our home unconstitutionally, unlawfully, trying to put me in jail for 28 days, claiming I'm not cooperating with law enforcement or with the county administrator when it comes to the best interests of our state. This document's on the record again, like the previous documents. On May 22nd, they censored those documents. We submitted a 9-page vision plan and a very special research paper by Dr. Jose Arguelles dealing with Mental Health Month. And they decided to censor that from the record, so we expect our personal property to be returned to us today. And we'll also be filing complaints to show how the county clerk has omitted and censored and molested the record in times past.
Lori St. Germain. Since May of 2023, I am still investigating my acquisition of the new house, 3524 Silverado Drive, built in 2004. Two structures were on the property of 3/4 of an acre, a 100,000-gallon tank, and a 540-square-foot building. The building had an expired permit from October of '95. Douglas County, the district attorney, and Indian Hills refused to comply with the county and the state building code requirements re an expired permit. The permit is null and void. Your county engineers approved my house being built on an entire parcel engulfed with an electric easement. After a costly year that has been modified to what should have occurred in 1995 and recorded. In addition was a water tank easement, first a blanketed, then reduced to 60% of the parcel. Since '95, 30 years ago, no water tank has been installed, but the 100,000-gallon tank was removed in 2011 without a permit. What only remains is the unpermitted 540-square-foot building. In June of 2024, a proposal to reduce the easement was presented to the trustees. Both time and understanding of what occurred 30 years ago confused many. Awaiting a year for the electric company, I reposed a submittal to the GID and was denied a presentation to the trustees on May the 28th of '25. That is the third time I've done that. A civil engineer was hired for a presentation. I am now seeking to be put on the agenda for the next commissioners' meeting to resolve this matter, as I did a year ago with 2 commissioners and many members of the staff, which from I have been exiled and denied access and removed by the district attorney and from the assessor's office by Kim O'Hara with 5 sheriffs as recently as May the 20th. In addition, I have now established that there has been a leasehold account on various parcels associated with my parcel since 1981. That mess has not been sorted out yet. A newly created parcel ending with 014 in 2002 is not paying any tax and has had the leasehold on it before mine. Please put this entire note verbatim in the minutes of this meeting. Thank you.
Is there any further public comment? Seeing none, I will close public comment and we will move to agenda item 4, approval of the agenda. Commissioner Tolbert.
I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
It's been moved by Commissioner Tolbert and seconded by Commissioner Rice that we approve the
Madam
agenda.
Chair.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the Commission, Jennifer Davidson, County Manager for the record. We do have one correction to the agenda prior to your approval. Agenda item B on the consent had a typographical error regarding the dollar amount in the contract. The title currently states that this is a discussion to approve a $300,000 agreement between the Department of Alternative Sentencing and Microgenics Corporation for drug testing equipment and supplies for 5 years and authorize the county manager to sign the agreement. The actual dollar amount of the contract can be found in the contract itself, which is included in the background information for the board's consideration today. And it is actually 324,000. I'm sorry, I lost the number. Give me just 1 minute. I even gave it to the clerk. $324,426.80. That is the change that needs to be made. And with that in the record, Madam Chair, I'd be happy to answer any questions the County Commission has prior to approval of the agenda. Of course, you are welcome to pull this item for consent for additional conversation or questions you may have. And I'd be happy to discuss it at that time if that is your decision. Thank you.
So, Madam Chair,
Yes.
I would indicate that this is the approval of the overall proposed agenda as presented. We haven't gotten to the consent calendar yet, and so that change would be appropriate when we go to approve the consent calendar, in my estimation. But
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. I asked legal counsel when was the most appropriate time to do this and asked me to do it now.
I guess so. I didn't realize we were approving the consent calendar at this time.
Oh, my understanding is that, we're not approving the consent calendar, but we're cleaning up that, that piece on the agenda before we approve it. And my understanding is that that's within a margin of errors close enough that it's not an open meeting law violation for us to make that change. So I believe that, do we need to revise the motion to reflect that change?
Doug Ritchie with the District Attorney's Office. No, you do not, but we wanted the board to be aware of it in case you did not want to approve the agenda with that particular item, whatever you want to do with it.
Very good. Any questions or discussion? All right, there's a motion by Commissioner Tolbert, seconded by Commissioner Rice. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Carries unanimously. Moving to number 5, approval of previous minutes. For possible action, discussion to approve the draft minutes of the April 30th, 2025 special meeting, April 30th, 2025 road workshop, and May 1st, 2025 regular meeting of the Board of County Commissioners. Commissioner Gardner.
I move for the approval of the draft minutes of April 30th, 2025 special meeting, April 30th, 2025 road workshop, and May 1st, 2025 regular meeting of the Board of County Commissioners as presented.
It's been moved by Commissioner Gardner, seconded by Commissioner Tarkanian. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Carries unanimously. We will now recess as the Board of County Commissioners and convene as the Douglas County Liquor Board. Agenda item 7 for possible action, discussion to approve the packaged retail liquor license and on-site unrestricted license pending the issuance of a certificate of occupancy for Foothill Market LLC, doing business as Foothill Market, represented by owner and manager Casey Sabahar and owner Haley Sabahar. Casey Sabahar and Haley Sabahar have signed a waiver of notice of hearing. Foothill Market LLC, DBA Foothill Market, is located at 2299 Main Street in Genoa. Captain Stork.
Good morning, Captain Stork with the Sheriff's Office. This applicant has completed all the required paperwork and passed their background checks. The Sheriff's Office is not opposed to this application.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Is the applicant here? Well, welcome. Are you the Sabahars? Yes. Nice. Well, glad you're here. Is there any discussion, questions, or motion?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Rice.
I move that we approve the package retail liquor license and on-site unrestricted license pending the issuance of a certificate of occupancy, that's a tongue twister, for Foothill Market LLC, doing business as Foothill Market, as presented.
It's been moved by Commissioner Rice and seconded by Commissioner Tarkanian that we approve this liquor license. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No.
No, we don't go to public comment.
The matter passes unanimously with a vote of 6. We will adjourn as the thank you, Captain Stork, and thank you, and we wish you well. We will adjourn as the Douglas County Liquor Board and reconvene as the Board of County Commissioners and move to the consent agenda. Does anyone want to pull anything? Is there a motion?
I will move for the, Madam Chair, I will move for the approval of the consent calendar, items A through Z, with the noted correction of the dollar amount on the agenda of item B to $324,426.80 as presented.
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Gardner and seconded by Commissioner Rice that we approve all the items on the consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Moving to the administrative agenda, item 11, for presentation only, ceremonial presentation of proclamation 2025 P-056 proclaiming the week of June 16, 2025 through June 22, 2025 as National Pollinator Week in Douglas County, Nevada. We have Jessica Gardner here with us, and we appreciate you being here. She is the Horticulture Outreach Coordinator of the Cooperative Extension Agency. So thank you. Okay.
Do you want to invite anyone else up? No worries.
Before we start, Jessica, would you introduce who's here with you?
Yeah. My name is Jessica Gardner. I'm the Horticulture Outreach Coordinator at UNR Extension. With me is Kenya, our County Coordinator, and Tara, our 4-H Coordinator at the UNR Extension Office.
Thank you. Proclamation 2025 P-056 proclaiming June 16th through 22nd, 2025 as National Pollinator Week. Whereas Douglas County has an abundance of plant and animal species that enhance the natural beauty of Douglas County and contribute to the health of our ecosystems. And whereas pollinator species such as bees, birds, butterflies, bats, beetles, and others provide substantial benefits that are vital for maintaining healthy flora and fauna, supporting wildlife, providing healthy watersheds and soils, and more. And whereas healthy pollinator populations are critical to the continued economic well-being of agricultural producers of rural America and of the U.S. economy, and about 1 in every 3 bites of food exists because of the work of the pollinators. And whereas pollinator populations have seen a steady decline since the 1950s, which may be due to factors such as disease, parasites, viruses, loss of habitat, exposure to pesticides, and lack of genetic diversity. And whereas National Pollinator Week is critically important because it provides an opportunity to celebrate pollinators in our county, encourage the protection of pollinators, increase the quality and amount of pollinator habitat and forage, reverse pollinator losses, and to help restore pollinator populations to healthy levels to ensure healthy ecosystems and food security. Therefore, be it proclaimed by the Douglas County Board of Commissioners to recognize the vital significance of protecting pollinator health, do hereby proclaim June 16th through 22nd, 2025 as National Pollinator Week in Douglas County. So, thank you. Yes. Would you like to?
Yeah. Jessica Gardner again for the record. So we have a full week's worth of events happening throughout northern Nevada. Actually, this year we made a full northern Nevada area event going on. We'll be doing a movie with the Douglas County Public Library on June 16th to kick off the event. Our junior master gardeners will be creating pollinator habitats and installing them at Heritage Park Gardens. we'll be doing a Bumblebee Atlas observation day where we go out and help monitor the bumblebee populations in our area. And then we will also be doing a culminating event on June 22nd, where there'll be, I think, 7 different gardens between Washoe County, Carson City, and Douglas County for people to go and visit these pollinator gardens. And the UNR Extension Master Gardeners in all 3 of those counties will be providing educational resources and people to ask questions to at each of those gardens. So I hope that we can see some people out there and enjoy our celebration of these vital creatures in our community. So thank you so much. Please.
So in the interest of full disclosure, Miss Jessica Gardner is not related to me, okay, that I know of anyways. And I understand also that local honey helps, doses of local honey helps in keeping down your allergies. And so I did buy some. And I don't know whether it's helping or not, but I sure enjoy having a spoonful every morning with my coffee. So,
Time.
We really appreciate your dedicated efforts in this good cause. I want to say, on behalf of everyone who eats food in Douglas County, thank you very much. Moving to agenda item 12.1 for possible action, discussion to approve. Oh, before we move on. Oh, I was going to recognize Mr. Falk. Did he just walk out? Sorry, I meant to do this a little bit early, but we wanted to recognize you, Mr. Falk. This is Neil Falk. For those who don't know, he's with Minden Lawyers, and we just approved a contract with him and his firm to provide legal services for the public administrator and public guardian. And that truly is a support of a public service and a public service in itself, and we appreciate you and your colleagues being willing to do that. So thank you. Yes. Any questions for Mr. Falk? Okay. Thank you so much. And thank you for stepping back in. All right. Agenda item 12.1 for possible action, discussion to approve a covenant agreement with the State of Nevada Commission for Cultural Centers and Historic Preservation. And that is commonly referred to as CCCHP, and accept $75,900 in grant funding for the Dangberg Home Ranch Historic Park. The purpose of the grant is to pay an architectural team to prepare an historic structures report and an estimate of future restoration costs for the bunkhouse at Dangberg Home Ranch Historic Park. We'll turn this to Ryan Stanton, who is the Deputy Community Services Director.
Thank you, members of the commission. Again, Ryan Stanton, Community Services Deputy Director. Just wanted to take the opportunity to give you a little bit of history that the county has with the Friends of Dangberg and the historic Dangberg Home Ranch. The Dangberg Home Ranch Historic Park was opened by the Nevada State Parks in 2007 and was operated by the Nevada Division of State Parks under contract with Douglas County. In January 2011, the Nevada Division of Parks notified Douglas County that they were going to close the facility due to budget limitations. The state would be unable to operate the park after June 30th, 2011. The Friends of Dangberg, which we refer to as Friends, at this time had a newly formed volunteer group of park supporters working with the Division of State Parks in Douglas County, sought to find a way to keep the unique historic site available to the public by shifting costs of the operating of the Dangberg Home Ranch from the state to Douglas County. Their efforts were successful, and July 1st, 2011, the Friends of Dangberg began operating the park under contract with Douglas County. The Friends of Dangberg Home Ranch is a Nevada 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to the operation, preservation, and promotion of the Dangberg Home Ranch Historic Park. So moving into the item before the board, again, some background on this project. The Friends of Dangberg has qualified for a $75,900 grant from the Nevada Commission for Cultural Centers and Historic Preservation, referred to as CCCHP. The purpose of the grant is to pay an architect team to prepare a historic structures report and estimate of future restoration costs of the bunkhouse at the Dangberg Home Ranch Historic Park. This grant does not cover the actual costs of any repairs or restoration projects. This report meets a strategic plan, goal, and initiative by increasing opportunities and access for the residents of all ages and abilities to enjoy outdoor recreation in Douglas County. Sorry, I didn't memorize this beforehand. As a condition of the grant, CCCHP requires Douglas County as an owner of the parcel to sign attached covenant agreement to preserve the historic character of the Dangberg property. Among the grant requirements, including a promise to Douglas County assume the costs of continued maintenance and repair the property through the 40-year grant period, which would be December 31st, 2065. The grant also requires the county to obtain prior written permissions from the State of Nevada State Historic Preservation Office, which we refer to as SHPO. Any visual structural changes are made to either the interior or exterior of the property. The state of Nevada also demands the right to inspect county's property at any reasonable time to ensure Douglas County's compliance with the grant requirements. There is an existing 30-year covenant agreement on this parcel from the prior grant. After doing some additional research, is actually granted in 2021 of $100,000. The duration of the CCCHP covenant agreement is dependent on cumulative award. If the grant is accepted, the covenant length will increase by 10 years. So it'll be a total of a 40-year covenant. And cumulative award, if awarded the $75,900, would be $175,900, or $900 from the CCCHP. In closing, receiving this grant will strengthen Douglas County and the Friends of Dangberg eligibility and competitiveness for future grant opportunities. And lastly, Douglas County Community Services wants to thank Mark Jensen and the Friends of Dangberg trustees for their continued dedication and unwavering support. Your commitment is truly appreciated.
Thank you. Before we take questions, I would like to invite Mr. Jensen to be introduced and recognized. Is your title executive director or what director or?
Executive Director.
Executive Director of the Dangberg Home Ranch?
Friends of Dangberg Home Ranch.
Thank you.
The Dangberg Home Ranch Historic Park is the name of the park only.
Thank you.
And I do have a prepared statement. Again, my name is Mark Jensen. I'm the Director of Friends of Dangberg Home Ranch, and this is the nonprofit that supports Douglas County Parks and its stewardship of Dangberg Home Ranch Historic Park. I'm sure that county staff can answer your questions about the facts of this agenda item, but I do want to provide some background information. I'm sure the commissioners, after reading the report that Friends of Dangberg submitted earlier this year, already understand that the organization is not just holding bake sales. Since its founding in 2011, Friends of Dangberg's annual budget has grown to $132,000. It employs 2 professional staff. There are currently 560 contributing members who donate annually, giving $1.3 million in all since 2011. All of that money, in one way or another, has been used to benefit the park. Almost $500,000 of that support was given to the county in the form of historic restoration, landscaping projects, and other improvements. Some of that donor support also built an endowment fund to more than $265,000 today and growing, and it's important to note that this endowment is dedicated to the park, not to Friends of Dangberg. The principal cannot be touched, and even if Friends of Dangberg ceased to exist, the return on an investment will still be available to support the park. Friends of Dangberg has also received numerous grants over the years totaling $670,000. And those grants, including allocations from Douglas County's budget, have all supported restoration and public services. Last year, 4,618 people visited the park, including 2,263 attending cultural events. Upcoming in 2025, 35 events are scheduled. Staff and volunteers recently facilitated 7 elementary school field trips to the park, and there will be 6 additional youth events throughout the summer. In short, Friends of Dangberg is a successful and stable organization with a strong support base. The park is beloved by many and serves the community well. Today, Friends of Dangberg is simply asking the county to support the facility that, for a variety of reasons, is already obligated to take care of. Management of the grant and the project will be done by Friends of Dangberg. County staff involvement is not required, though it's welcome. The project merely funds research, the preparation of an historic structures report, which is an important step towards possible future restoration of this building. In the county's most recent strategic plan, one of the goals established was promote awareness of history and culture through partnerships with community organizations. This project and this covenant helps accomplish that goal. Approving the covenant makes it possible for Friends of Dangberg to continue its strong fundraising to support the park. Not approving it makes additional fundraising much more difficult. And I can answer any questions but I defer to county staff. Thank you.
Would you please stay at the podium because we may have questions.
Say again?
Would you please stay at the podium?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Thank you. Are there questions for either county staff or Mr. Jensen? Commissioner Tolbert.
Yeah, so I just wanted to confirm, because there was the one big question about if this report is just a planning tool and not an obligation to correct anything that they find that needs to be done. My history in working in historic buildings has been that, once you open up a wall, you open up a huge can of worms potentially. So this is not any kind of dictation of we have to make adjustments to this building tomorrow. If we find out this has to happen, that there's any kind of obligation, obviously we're going to want to make those moving forward, but we wouldn't have to pull funds or something to immediately correct anything that is brought forth by this report or findings.
Brooke Ady, Community Services Director. The grant fund is to engage with an architect to see what it would take to refurbish the bunkhouse. It is no obligation that the county will then fund the repairs, but this study positions us to apply for future grant funding. The bunkhouse is currently not open to the public because it is not a safe structure. If we prolong studies like this or seeking funding for these types of buildings, it just increases the amount of time that they're going to be deteriorating without being addressed. And so that's why we really want to get the funding now to do this study so that when funds become available, we could apply for them and take action and hopefully get this building restored.
Right, I agree. It definitely needs to be happening. That's why like I said, when these historic buildings get touched, it's like there's a lot of things that come into play, including the Historical Society. There's state agency, right? We'd have to go through when you start working on these buildings. So yeah, right. I just want to confirm that this is a planning tool that we will use to move forward to make the corrections that need to be made to make it open to the public.
Correct.
Not an obligation that once this is done, you must do these X things in, just making sure that we're keeping it an open eye.
Yes, that is correct.
Right.
I appreciate that, Mr. Tolbert, and I want to just follow up with a little more language in that regard. In the proposed agreement, it calls for the county to assume maintenance and repair of the property. In my mind, maintenance and repair keeps it in the state it currently is, and that is our obligation, versus restoring or refurbishing. This agreement does not give the county any responsibility to restore or refurbish, no matter what the result of this $75,000 study is. I think that's the understanding of the commissioners, and I'm seeing you nod your heads, but if you could confirm that for the record, that would be good.
Yeah, Brooke 80 Community Services Director, that is correct, that we are held responsible for maintenance and repair of the existing facility. The covenant is already in existence that holds us to that standard. By the Dangberg Home Ranch being a historical facility, we're held to that standard through the NRS as well. This new agreement extends the current one 10 years. So if we were not to receive this funding, we're still beholden to that covenant with that language moving forward.
For a shorter number of years, but
Correct.
still.
Correct.
Okay. Any other commissioner have questions? I do have one more question for Mr. Jensen. And as we spoke yesterday, you know that this is going to be my question. I'm looking at paragraphs 4 and 5, which obligate the property owner, which is the county, but in this case, the county looks to the Friends of Dangberg. The obligation is that the property will be open to the public not less than 12 days, with some other details, and that notification will be published with some specifics prior to the opening dates. And I just want to confirm that Friends of Dangberg takes that responsibility on, and that is not given to county staff.
Well, the park is a day-use park, so no one needs to be present to access it, but currently Friends of Dangberg does publicize its programming, has hours where various buildings are open to the public, but the entire park is the community center, so anyone can drive back there and visit the facility.
So, I mean, if you could just answer my question, that the responsibility in paragraphs 4 and 5 rests on the shoulders of Friends of Dangberg.
As long as Friends of Dangberg exists and has permission from the county to provide those services, we will continue to do so.
Okay. Then my vote on this is predicated on Friends of Dangberg taking on that responsibility that's listed in paragraphs 4 and 5, which it has been doing. Thank you. Commissioner, any other commissioner? Commissioner Gardner?
So the county relies on a lot of grants to do a lot of functions within our county, and I certainly encourage that, and I don't like voting against a grant proposal, but obviously always with grant funding, it always comes with strings attached, and those strings attached are a concern of mine. We are already tied into a 30-year agreement, as I understand it, so this would extend it by another 10 years. And I also, I don't like spending money or getting money that's going to do a study that's not going to produce, any tangible results other than to tell us what needs to be done. So I'm concerned about that aspect of the state basically coming, or the architectural team coming back and saying, this is what it's going to take, and us, and then our public saying, well, you need to do that, but we don't have the funds to do that. So those are concerns of mine. I'm not saying I'm not going to vote for this or against it at this point in time, but those are just trying to express some concerns that I have.
Ms. Adie.
Brooke 80 Community Services Director. I'd like to speak to one of the concerns that Commissioner Gardner has brought forward about conducting a study. The study is something, anytime we are going to make improvements or do alterations to a historic building, we have to engage with an architect. And we have to pay an architect, and so those funds have to come from somewhere before we could do any of the projects that we want to do. And so this grant is positioning us in a place where the state's going to pay for us to have that study done so that we know what kind of improvements will need to be done moving forward. So getting an architect involved in these projects is something that happens every time, and it's a necessary piece so that we're abiding by historic practices and we're staying historically accurate.
Mark Jensen, I'd also like to add that the money is coming to Friends of Dangberg, and Friends of Dangberg will pay an architect that it already has scheduled. That architect has a team of subcontractors already and eager to go. The money doesn't go to the county, but the results of the project will be made available to the county so that the county and Friends of Dangberg can talk about next steps. Those steps could be the following year when a great deep-pocketed funder steps forward and says, I love bunkhouses, or it could be 10 years while Friends of Dangberg continues its usual fundraising little bit by little bit. Currently, Friends of Dangberg has about $50,000 set aside in a restoration fund. Some of that money came from the county allocations. Other parts of it came from our private donors. And so our goal is to continue building those kinds of funds so that we can help the county do this restoration work in the future.
Thank you for those explanations.
Any other questions?
I have no question. I do, yes, I do. It's my understanding, and you can confirm or deny this, that by passing this particular item, that opens the door for grants from other areas to do the repairs that are necessary. Is that correct?
Brook 80 Community Services Director, that is correct. When this document is complete, it positions us in a place to seek funding to say, we have a project, we're ready to go, this is what needs to be done, and this is how much it's going to cost. It gets us one step closer to getting additional funding.
So in other words, this will actually save the county money.
Brook 80 Community Services Director, by receiving these grant funds to do this study, the Friends of Dangberg or the county are not having to seek alternative sources to get funding to do this study. So it will be done.
Thank you, Mr. Jensen. And we will go now to public comment. Mr. Jackson.
Jim Jackson. This sounds like another movie theater. Spending $75,000 for an architect to tell you how much it's going to cost you to rebuild the bunkhouse, when it probably would cost you less to rebuild the bunkhouse than it's going to cost you to have an architect tell you how much. This is typical government waste of money. If you do this, the county's going to be on the hook for something somewheres down the line. I could hear it in all the conversations. If they have private donors that are giving them all this money to restore the place, that sounds like a good place to get it from. I'm not against having these historic sites. I'm just against the way that the government goes about funding this stuff. Whether it's coming from the state or the county, it's still our tax money that's going into these things. And it needs to be spent a little wiser, a little bit more thought put to it. It's all exciting. Let's go hire an architect to do all this. We got it all lined up. Let's go. But it never works that way. Commissioner Gardner, you were bringing up that point on, is this a good way to spend money? That's the commissioner I voted for. Stick with that. But just think about it. Now, you're going to approve it because, like you said, you're going to get grant money for other things. But you also said all grant money comes with strings, and those strings will cost us money. So just think of it in that way. Not typical government.
Thank you for those thoughts.
I just wanted to thank the Dodge representative from Douglas County. Thank you. Dodge.
The Doge, or as Representative Amity calls him, the doggy. Yes. Is there any other public comment on this agenda item? Seeing none, I will close public comment and come back to the board for discussion. Commissioner Tolbert?
So I guess we talked about what those strings are with this, right? Is that it extends our contract? Is that, so what exactly does that mean? What are the pluses and minuses of extending that contract?
The covenant, the new covenant, which adds 10 years on, is essentially identical to the previous covenant, although the project that is being identified for funding is a little bit different. So it beholds us to ask your question again, please. I want to make sure I'm answering it the right way.
The pros and cons of extending the contract.
Oh, the pros and
Because it sounds
cons.
like
Okay.
going back to your mobile phone, and you get a new phone for free, but you're on
Yes.
the contract for however long. So, yeah, so what is, I mean, how has the contract affected us, I guess, so far? And
Yeah.
what is the potential negatives and positives of extending it for 10 more years?
So far, the covenant, to my understanding, and I'll have Mark Jensen jump back up here and please correct me if I'm wrong or if I need to re-clarify any of my statements, has been a great benefit to the Dangberg Home Ranch. Funding has been provided for us to be able to complete projects. The State Historic Preservation Office has been a great partner. Their goal is to work with historic sites to help them seek funding and get funding to maintain buildings, to do projects like this. They've been a really great partner. The positive for this is that we will have funding to complete this study, which is something that needs to be done if we want to take future action in rebuilding or refurbishing the bunkhouse. Without getting this funding, we would have to seek other funding sources for that. So in my mind, I'm seeing positives that this is a lengthy covenant. We are already beholden to it for 30 years, and even if we had no covenant, we're beholden to most of the similar things that are in that under NRS because it's a historic building. So a lot of the things that we're required to do whether or not this gets approved.
She has it correct. Mark Jensen, basic maintenance, painting, repairing a broken window, repairing minor woodwork damage as the building weathers, but the maintenance is all pretty simple. Doesn't require anything more than what the county would do at any of its facilities, painting buildings when they need to be painted, for instance.
Commissioner Tarkanian.
As personally, that these historic preservations are really important for the history that you provide for the people that follow us. And if you're getting the state to pay for a lot of it, and the counties, what is the county paying per year for Danbridge, the upkeep right now? We have a small portion that we pay. I know they raise money, they get grant money. What is the out-of-pocket from the county usually?
Brooke Community Services Director, I'd have to do some research to give you some hard numbers, but right now we have our parks maintenance staff who goes out there a couple times a week and they maintain the grounds, so they do a lot of grounds maintenance. We partner with
I was just trying to get to the point that we're not paying a whole lot to preserve a very important aspect of Douglas County, an historic part of Douglas County.
So we have allocated.
My notes say that we annually support
Yes.
the Dangberg Home Ranch with $100,000.
Yes, that is where I was. That was my next piece. So
As
we
well
have
as
staff.
$15,000 to the Friends of Dangberg.
Correct.
Yeah.
A little more than I thought, but there's a price to pay for keeping around historic things that are important for our future generations to see how this county grew. This $75,000 is coming from the state, so that's not an
Correct.
additional part to the county.
There is no match.
And to say that we're going to go last 10 more years of preserving it, does anybody on the board think we're not going to want to preserve Dangberg Ranch at the end of the term period? I don't see that happening, so I don't know what the detriment is of extending it 10 years.
If I may, Mark Jensen for the record. I also want to follow up on the question about what the advantages are. Another grant application we've currently submitted is requesting funding to install a climate control system in the ranch house. And when we submit grant applications like that, we're able to say Douglas County has shown a commitment to the park's future in these ways, and agreeing to the covenant, supporting this kind of project is one of those ways. And that just since Friends of Dingberg doesn't own the property, it's essential that that piece be in place.
Thank you. Anyone else? Commissioner Gardner.
I don't have any additional questions, but I would like to say something before we take a motion and vote. Is that, and this has been very enlightening, quite frankly. I think, and I agree with Commissioner Tarkanian that we want to preserve our historical buildings here in the county. We have a lot of barns that are around the county that are very historical. We have other sites that are historical, and I think we need to preserve those for future generations. I want to be careful about our obligations out of our general fund in regards to that, because we're very tight on that, and we need to recognize that going forward. Once again, I said that all grants come with strings attached. I do recognize, however, that we already are tied into a 30-year covenant, so we're talking about extending that for 10 years. So it's not like we're going out of our way. I appreciate what Mr. Jackson said regarding the spending of taxpayer money, regardless of whether it comes from the local or the state or the federal organization, for that matter. Everybody says, "Oh, we're getting money from the feds. We're getting money from the feds, or we're getting money from the state." That's our money, okay? And we always have to recognize that that's our money, okay? All we're doing is bringing it back into the community. The problem is, Mr. Jackson, is if we turn down this $75,900, we won't know specifically what might need to be done to that structure, and the commission, the State of Nevada Commission for Cultural Centers and Historic Preservation, unfortunately, are going to spend that money somewhere else, in some other county, in some other building. And so that's the dilemma that we're in, is how much of these funds can we bring back into our county? How many dollars of our taxpayers can we bring back into our county? And so every time somebody says, these funds shouldn't be spent. Well, whether or not they should be spent or not is a matter, is subjective, and if it's going to be spent, then we might as well bring it into our county and do it, with the understanding that once should this pass, once it is done, hopefully we're not going to have an astronomical number that the Friends of the Dangberg Ranch are going to have to go out and try to seek to preserve this building. But I think it's important to do that. So anyways, that's where I'm leaning on this.
I appreciate those thoughts. I'll weigh in. I agree completely. If we don't accept this money, it's not like it's going back into the dollars or the bank accounts of taxpayers. It's going to a different county. And I think we kind of have an obligation to our residents to get our fair share of the tax dollars that they are obligated to pay. From my home, I can look over at the Dangberg Ranch, and I do pay attention, especially in the summer months, to the gatherings that are there, and they are important and they are well attended. And I know that from the numbers on the reports that the Friends of Dangberg have made to the county, a lot of people go there. I also know that over 500, maybe almost 600, I think, I can't remember. You said the number, Mr. Jensen. It's a lot of people financially support. There is a lot of private money going to Friends of Dangburg. I think most of those donors would live in Douglas County. And what we do with this money provided by the state is open the door for them to continue the improvements they want to make, that they are committed to with their own pocketbooks and their own volunteer time. I do not want to stand in the way of these hundreds of passionate volunteers and donors who want to move forward preserving this place. I did have pause because the agreement is a little bit onerous in its language on what it expects, but I am given some comfort by the fact that we have had this similar agreement in place and the state has not been tyrannical in the way that it is implementing the contract. So I agree with what my fellow commissioners have said and just wanted to add those pieces. Commissioner Tarkanian.
I just think we should be very cautious before we accept this money because Clark County really needs more of this grant money.
Board norms and procedures do restrict us from using sarcasm during the meetings. Just want to point that out, okay? Because I spend all Fridays after these meetings doing nothing but sarcasm, okay? And it drives my wife crazy.
Miss Adie.
Brooke Adie, Community Services Director. I did want to touch on a couple points that were made. It is accurate that we allocate $100,000 each budget cycle to support the Dangburg Home Ranch and the projects. That is with room tax, not with general fund. So I want to be very clear that that is room tax dollars that we allocate towards that project if the revenues come in to support the expenses. So that is something that we do monitor very closely. We set aside some funds that we would like to support the projects for that, but if the revenues do not come in, the projects do not happen. So that is something that we do keep an eye on, and it is room tax.
Thank you. All right, we've already had public comment. Commissioner Tolbert.
Again, I'll be brief, but I know from all my comments so far, I've just wanted, playing the devil's advocate, but I would like to go on record that I believe that the Dangburg Home Ranch is one of our jewels of the valley. My wife was involved at the very beginning, working for Mr. Jensen, making products, paper products back in the day. And I have attended a few presentations and tours of that park. And I invite everybody, if you have not gone and had a guided tour, you should do that, and especially if family's in town and you guys don't know what to do, have that scheduled in advance. It is impeccable. And Mr. Jensen, yourself, I would invite you to record an oral history because not only is the park historic, but your knowledge of what's there, you're one of very few people that have that all up there, and you might keep that for future generations. You could be immortalized. I don't know who would do that, but I invite you to do that so that that's not lost. So that was it. I just wanted to clarify, my personal position on the Dangburg Ranch, that it definitely needs to be maintained, just whether or not this is a positive or negative moving forward.
Thank you. I guess I'll agree with you and say the Dangburg Home Ranch is a county treasure, and Mr. Jensen, you are too. So thank you for your passionate work. Is there any other discussion or is there a motion?
Well, Madam Chair, I tell you what, I came into this meeting leaning at a no vote on this, okay? I wasn't convinced, but after hearing public comment and the presentations and the fact that, once again, the funds would go somewhere else if not here, and also we already have a 30-year covenant, so anyways, at this time, I'll move to approve the covenant agreement with the State of Nevada Commission for Cultural Centers and Historic Preservation, noted as CCCHP, and accept $75,900 in grant funding for the Dangburg Home Ranch Historic Park. The purpose of the grant is to pay an architectural team to prepare an historic structures report and an estimate of future restoration costs for the bunkhouse at Dangburg Home Ranch Historic Park as presented.
I'll second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Gardner and seconded by Commissioner Tolbert. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. You're welcome. We will take a 5-minute break and reconvene at 11:10. Let's reconvene our meeting. All right. Agenda item 12.2 for possible action, discussion to approve the appointment of the Douglas County Sheriff or his designee to serve as the elected official representative to the Rise Up Tripartite Board for Douglas County Social Services. Jody Martinez, Social Services Manager, welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, members of the commission. Jody Martinez, Social Services Manager for the record. This board is very small. I will start with that. At Social Services, we do receive Community Services Block Grant funding, which does designate us as the Community Action Agency, which we did get recognized for last month. But with that funding comes some requirements, and they're called organizational standards in our office. And one of those standards is that we do have to have a board, and the board does have to have 3 legs to it. So one of them is a low-income representative, and one is a community representative, so that can be like a private individual, a business, anything like that. And then the third is an elected official. So previously, or their designee, I should say, previously that role was filled with the public administrator. So now that the public administrator is no longer an elected official, we were looking to fill that, and we were hoping to have an appointment of something that can be consistent with our board. So that way, if there are changes in staffing, it can still be from that same possible office or elected official office. With that, we did reach out to the Douglas County Sheriff's Office to see if they would be willing to fill that role, and they were very willing to do that for us, which we appreciate. But with that role, we thought that the Sheriff's Office would be a great partnership with Social Services because we do work so frequently together with the indigent population. And with that,
thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there questions for Ms. Martinez? Commissioner Gardner.
I only had one question, and it wasn't for you. Actually, it was for our sheriff. Number one, are you willing to do this? And number two, do you have an individual selected as, are you going to do this, or are you looking at somebody within your department to do this? I know you have so much spare time on your hands. Maybe it's another board that you could serve on, but I don't want to prejudge that, so.
Sheriff Dan Carvely for the record. So yes, we are absolutely willing to do this. And like Jody said, we work very closely with community social services, and they're a great partner. And no, I'm not going to be on the board, but I have a willing administrative captain, Captain Stork, who you guys know well. So he will be my designee, and he'll do a good job.
Any other questions? Okay. One question. Would you introduce your colleague?
Yes, I apologize. So sitting here with me, this is Lisa Torres. She's the Administrative Services Manager. She oversees all of our grant funding in our office. So I thought she could be here in case there were questions that I may not have the answer for that comes up.
Thank you for being here. Is there any public comment on this agenda item? So we are talking about the appointment of the sheriff or his designee to this board.
I'm going to address this issue from direct experience. When I was dating a mental health counselor out of Hood River, in order to qualify for HUD housing, I had to become a patient and be treated by mental health services by a particular organization, much like the Rural Health Clinics organization here in the most outreach safety team of Douglas County. And what we experienced there resulted in legislation that was drafted by Senator Chuck Thompson, and it will serve as a benchmark to caution the county when integrating law enforcement and social services It was our experience and what resulted in the legislation that equalized the social engineering of law enforcement who profiled us to the social services workers to make us out to be mentally incompetent and therefore have us falsely arrested without due process, without an actual victim or an actual crime. And what they were doing is essentially lining their pockets and unjustly enriching themselves with caseloads that resulted in our misfortune. I'm talking about fathers like myself who are trying to see their kids and are being incarcerated for enforcing their parenting plans that aren't worth the ink they're printed on. So it's a very complex situation. We submitted a 112-page document to Douglas County Sheriffs and to the courts for your review. That's also on the record, I believe, the February record for the Douglas County Board of County Commissioners. It's a 112-page document that shows how the mental health industry is essentially socially engineered by the state. They create the problems that they're paid to fix. And much of what's going on in our mental health industry or crisis or so, whatever you want to refer to this cash cow scheme as, is false and is bloated. And it's, again, enriching the employees and the stakeholders of institutions like the Justice Law Enforcement Center in Douglas County.
Is there any other public comment? Seeing none, I will close public comment and bring it to the board for further discussion or motion.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Rice.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the appointment of the Douglas County Sheriff or his designee, sitting in the back of the room, to serve as the elected official representing Rise Up in Douglas County.
It's been moved by Commissioner Rice and seconded by Commissioner Tarkanian. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Agenda item thank you. Agenda item 13 for possible action, discussion on the adoption of Resolution 2025R-055, increasing the Douglas Disposal Inc. residential and commercial collection service rates by 2.59% and the transfer station service rates as allowed under the terms of the existing franchise agreement. The proposed rate changes will become effective July 1st, 2025. Mr. Rittger, Public Works Director.
Commissioners, thank you. Philip Rittger, Director of Public Works, for the record. This is the annual rate adjustment that is allowed under the franchise agreement. And the rate adjustment is in accordance with a model that was approved by a previous board in 2003. It uses financial data and information from the previous year, so essentially the model adjusts based on financial information in arrears to update the rates. So there's no really projection or speculation in this. It's based on audited costs and expenses and allowable expenses. In your packet is the resolution with the proposed rates, and it shows the previous year's rates and the rate increases in each category. There's only a couple of items that I want to point out on this year's resolution. It's been in place already since the last resolution, but the house service charge is a fee. It's an additional fee to the collection that was put in place currently for the Clear Creek Tahoe development area, but that is for additional service essentially to collect trash from an enclosure attached to the home out to the street. So instead of them taking trash down to the street or street level, which they can do, they can pay an extra fee to have it collected directly from a bear-proof receptacle at the house. And then another thing of note is that the permanent drop box rate for commercial customers is, you'll see the rate fees in the calculations, but it is being held at last year's rate, so there's no increase on those. And with that, I will open it up to the board for questions. Oh, I do have representatives from Douglas Disposal here if you have any questions for them.
Commissioner Tarkanian.
So these rate increases, there's a formula that was approved by the 2003 board, if I understand you correctly. Yes?
Yes, yes.
And each year you apply that formula to determine what, if any, increases there.
That is correct.
Then what authority does this board have to say no?
Under the terms of the franchise agreement, I'm not sure. I'll turn that over to.
No, I mean. 'cause,
Yeah, I understand.
The only reason I'm saying that is I have more people that get mad because they say, oh, you're raising these, it's so much expensive right now. They think that we have a lot of flexibility here. I love that silence. I think that would be perfect to use in a video clip. So the box, the fee that's staying the same, the box that you said, the box fee?
That's the, what I call a permanent drop box fee, which is for commercial properties, when they want a 6-yard box or a 10-yard box for their commercial operations, those fees are staying flat from last year.
Yeah.
Before we go on, I think that the county manager or Chief Deputy District Attorney Doug Ritchie may want to comment on your previous point.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and members of the board. Jennifer Davidson, County Manager for the record, and Commissioner Tarkanian, thank you for your question. As part of this board's fiduciary responsibilities, it is appropriate for us to share the findings of the audit and the fiscal report that we are relying on in order to adjust this rate. You are reviewing that information to make sure that they are in compliance with the terms of the contract and that the adjustment to the rate is appropriate. If you found anything concerning in the materials provided in the background today, you could direct staff to look into it, to do additional audits, to see whether or not we thought it was appropriate to adjust the rate. So while the contract does specify that a rate could be made, it is still appropriate for this board to review the information that was relied on.
I think the contract states that a rate must be made, rate increase must be made. It's not could be
It
made.
does.
That's
It
just
does
the point.
if the financial information is reviewed and is accurate.
Yeah, well, that was just the point I was making. If the information is accurate, this is a mandatory requirement by the board. And I just want to ask you about this one, but that you're keeping the same. Are they under the same type of formula, or why is this one not going up? Why the one with the other rate is going up? Are there different formulas that are applied, or you just explain that? Then I'm all done.
Sorry, no. Under the franchise agreement and under the rate formula is calculated for all rates across the board. Historically, there have been years where Douglas Disposal has gone through the rate model, calculated what the rate increase, and then come to this board with a recommendation not to increase rates, to hold them. During COVID, they did that. And I think for the Dropbox service system, it's a contracted service with commercial properties, that there are other financial considerations in terms of how they're operating that part of their business. So even though they're subject to calculation under the rate model, they're not making that adjustment. And that's a choice they can make and bring to this board. To the county manager's comments, that is correct. Yeah, and I apologize. You're absolutely correct. Under the franchise agreement, this rate, a rate increase is allowed. And not only is there an independent auditing firm that audits those financials and confirms the information, we then also at Public Works go through the rate calculation itself and the model to make sure all the data has been inputted properly and all the information is there correctly to generate the rate increase percent.
Commissioner Gardner.
Thank you. And I think those were very good explanations. So basically, even though we have a contract in place, which allows a certain amount of a percentage increase on an annual basis, they don't necessarily have to impose those. But if they did want to go above the contract rate because of market processes, they would have to come back to us to justify that. Would that be a correct statement also?
Yes, that would be outside of the bounds of the rate model and what's allowed for the increase. Correct.
Okay, thank you. And I had one question. I hope this doesn't go outside of this agenda item, but I know that last year we approved a fee for residential dropping off or dropping off at the transfer station, requiring the tarping of loads. And so I know they're here in the audience today. I wanted to ask a question, since we have the opportunity here, I hope, under this agenda item, to ask how that's working out and what kind of resistance or approval rate are they getting out of the residents that are dropping off, or anybody else for that matter, dropping off at the transfer station.
At this point, if someone from Douglas Disposal would like to come up and address that question, they can. While we're waiting on that, I can tell you that we continue, or Douglas Disposal continues to do a quarterly cleanup along Dump Road of trash that had been blowing out of the loads and outhaul there. Prior to that, the tarp load requirement, on a quarterly basis, they were seeing around 500 to 700 pounds of trash that they needed to collect from the side of the road. I think in the last 2 quarters that they've been doing this, it's been under 150 pounds each time. So there's been a significant improvement, at least in terms of trash that is blowing, or that is inadvertently being lost from loads going to the transfer station.
Okay, then I guess we really don't need to hear, I mean, unless he has something that you wish to say, but that was a very enlightening, and I'm very glad that we've had that kind of impact. Thank you.
All right.
So my comment is from my constituents out in the Johnson Lane area. So there wasn't really an argument about the fees, because cost of business is, as it is, but there was a request, and we don't know how to approach that, of getting a recycling bin out in the Johnson Lane area, similar to the one that's in Jacks Valley, because I have constituents that drive to Jacks Valley to dump their recycling there. If you just let us know what the process would, who to contact to maybe get that service provided in our area.
Well, you've asked the right person, so I will take that under advisement with Douglas Disposal and find a location where we can put in a recycling center out there.
Any other slightly related matters? Okay. All right. Thank you. With that, we'll go to public comment. Is there any public comment on this matter? Mr. Jackson.
Thank you. Jim Jackson. You brought up the question I was going to bring up, was the fine for not having a covered load when we went over there. I think it's a good idea to have a covered load. I just wish it applied to all trucks that were carrying debris that was flying out of the trucks, not just the trash that we as residents carry over there. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? I will close public comment and look to the board for a motion.
Why do you always make me do the fee stuff? I see how it is.
Because you're the
Madam Chair,
spender.
I move that we adopt resolution, caveat that only if they put the recycling in? No, I can't. Okay. Can I add?
Nice try.
All right, so seriously, okay. Adopt the resolution 2025R055, increasing the Douglas Disposal Inc. residential and commercial collection service rates by 2.59% and transfer service station rates effective July 1st, 2025 as presented.
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Tolbert, second by Commissioner Rice. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries unanimously.
If I may, Commissioners, thank you. I am right now. Yeah, I actually am, though. No, I just wanted to make a follow-up comment on the recycling centers that we have around the county in various, especially at school locations. Understand that that's a coordination with Douglas Disposal that we install those sites. Those sites, though, are funded through the franchise fees that we collect from the collection. So it's a service that actually, when we put these sites in, we do fund them or pay for them through the franchise fees. So again, it is a program we can expand. So I think it's a very worthwhile.
Thank you, and thank you to the folks from Douglas Disposal for being here. Before we move to agenda item 14, I would like to recognize that in attendance today we have the president of the Douglas County School Board, Yvonne Wagstaff. Thanks for being here. Our final agenda item, besides closing public comment, is for presentation only, announcements, reports, updates from county commission members, including updates on the various boards and/or commissions that they may be a member of or a liaison to, or any other meetings, functions they have attended, and any request by a commissioner for discussion of a future agenda item. Commissioner Tolbert, want to start us?
Sure. On the various boards, we've had quite a bit of action movement. Like I think I might have already previously about the Parks and Rec, looking at the master plan for the fairgrounds. There's going to be another round of that going through, looking for public comment. So when that gets announced, I highly recommend the public get involved with that one. Also, remember the Carson Water Subconservancy. Our meeting was held in Lyon County last month, or this, yeah, it was last month. And we actually toured a ranch where they're putting in a lot of mitigation for the environment and comparing slow growth versus new growth versus grasslands and controlling fire. And they're getting some very significant results, protecting some old growth cottonwood with that kind of thing, plus redirecting the river, putting it back to meandering. So there's a lot of good work coming out of those endeavors locally. It seems like I'm forgetting something, but there's always next meeting.
I don't have anything. I've been sort of on leave for 5 weeks, and I missed a couple meetings, which I will get caught up on and be able to advise the board at our next meeting.
Thank you. Commissioner Rice?
Okay, since our last meeting, I attended the RTC meeting. I was able to do that electronically as I was in Tulsa, Oklahoma, graduating 2 great-grandchildren from high school. And I can't believe that I got that old that fast. Anyway, I attended the RTC meeting as well as the Douglas County Lake Tahoe Sewer Authority meeting and a TDVA board meeting and a TRPA meeting since our last meeting. So I have been a little bit on the busy side, but the good news is there's been nothing earth-shaking happening on any of my meetings other than a few people that are unhappy about a hospital move or something like that. And I know, no sarcasm, but that's what I have to report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a number of things to talk about. First of all, on Tuesday, we did the groundbreaking for a tremendous amount of, or a very vital piece of infrastructure within our county. We've had a septic issue growing in the Pineview Estates area of our county. That's controlled by an HOA, and we have very little jurisdiction over that. But anyways, they had a failing community septic system through their hard work, and I have to give a shout out especially to the president of the HOA, Denise Baronio, our own Denise Baronio, as president in bird dogging that thing. So after many, many years, that's probably been something that's been percolating, pardon the use of that term, for a number of years, 6 or 7, 8 years. But anyways, they were able to acquire an $18 million grant for 6 miles of infrastructure that will move that from their community up and over the hill down into the Ruins-Roth area and eventually tie in with the Minden-Gardnerville Sanitation District. So what a tremendous job that is. And we had that groundbreaking, as I said, on Tuesday. 18 of that 18 million, 8 million of that is completely forgivable by the USDA. So that was a tremendous benefit to that community and to our county, as we know that that's something that had to be done sooner rather than later. I also want to indicate that this coming Saturday night, I believe it is that June, or maybe it's, what's June 6th? That's tomorrow, right? Is the first Movies in the Park by the town of Gardnerville. So I hope that our community will participate in that. It's always a great event. Also, this coming weekend on the Saturday and Sunday, I believe, we're having the kids fishing derby out at Lampe Park. And so that's something that our community should participate in. As a result of that, Carson Valley Days has been moved back a week, and Carson Valley Days and the parade will take place on Saturday, June 14th. So a lot of things happening within the next week and a half, 2 weeks within our community. I wanted to give a quick, on behalf of the NACO, a quick update on the legislature. We didn't have anything specifically to talk about, so that's why we didn't have that item on our agenda this meeting. The legislature did conclude as of midnight on Monday night, June the 2nd, and out of that, there were 1,210 bills that were brought forward by the various parties and different legislative sections. Of those, 329 of those died during the deadlines for committee action. There have been 231 of those bills that have been signed, with the rest awaiting the action of the governor. So far, he's last session, I believe he set a record of 75 vetoes. This session, he's already at 33. So moving, and he has 10 days in order to, after the legislature is over, to either approve or deny the different votes. And for our residents in Douglas County, I think the nail has finally been put in the coffin regarding lane reductions in the Tahoe Basin. That bill 426, I believe it was, indicated that there would be, regardless of what mitigation efforts there might be to avoid traffic in that area, there would be no lane reductions, which was something that we talked about at this board and brought forward. And also, it's still legal. You won't get fined or arrested or anything for for the sale of disposable water bottles. So that bill failed committee. So anyways, with that, that's kind of my wrap up of my activities.
Thank you. I will note that I attended a Tahoe Transportation District meeting yesterday and appreciate their good work. And I also that a lot of discussion is being had among persons involved with the South Shore Transportation Management Association regarding what our county's situation will be when they request funds, particularly for Lake Link. And I'm encouraged by a new direction that is being talked about. I also want to note of upcoming importance in our community is high school graduation, June 12th. And the final thing I want to mention is we have an amazing social committee, and they have planned a Hawaiian shirt day for June 20th. So I thought if it's appropriate right now, I thought I'd throw out to see if the 5 of us want to gather and have lunch in our Hawaiian gear on June 20th and take a picture and share it with our social committee people. Would that be okay for us to do? What's your availability for lunch or breakfast that day?
I have a visitors authority meeting in the morning, but I'm good for lunch. As a year resident of Hawaii, I might have a few shirts left. I could even let Mr. Tarkanian borrow one. What's the date?
June 20.
And there are Hawaiian cowboys. They're called paniolos. okay?
Absolutely.
So-
Yes. Okay, good. Well, we'll do details, but it sounds to me like there's interest. So we'll let you know details later, and that'll be fun. And I would appreciate the opportunity to support the social committee because they do really fun and good things. All right. We will move to agenda item 15, closing public comment. Is there any? As part of public comment, we would invite at some point Ms. Wagstaff to take a moment to mention the scholarships, any information you have about the scholarships or anything about graduation that you might want to share. All right. Mr. Jackson.
Jim Jackson. I had a couple of things that I wanted to go over. One was an article that I saw by Jamie Dimon, CEO of JP Morgan, pretty important individual. And he was going over several of the things going on in government, and one of his final comments was the amount of mismanagement in government, not just at the federal level, but at all levels. Now, he was taking a shot at a lot of different people, and I'm not taking a shot at you folks for mismanaging the government here. I think you do a fairly decent job of it. Not perfect, but fairly decent. I question some of the things that you do, but that's always going to be the case. But it's always something to keep in mind. And like we were talking earlier, $75,000 grant, it's still our tax money. And yes, it's going to be spent someplace, so they might as well spend it here. But the whole idea of it needs to be looked at and say, do we really need to do this to begin with? And to bring that down to the level of the money that is spent here in the county. The other thing is that they had an article in the paper the other day about the Painted Rock Mine and the state getting involved into it. A lot of that came from a lot of the people up there sending in complaints to the environmental section of the state government. We're not through with that. It is a real health hazard up there now. It's getting much worse. The dust that comes off of that road and off of the trucks and everything is creating a real hazard. And like I said, last month a good friend of mine died of lung cancer. Now, wasn't the fault of this because he's had it for a while. He didn't know he had it. It was all of a sudden within a 2-week period he was diagnosed with it and he was dead. But how many people over the next 5 to 10 years are going to come down with this same kind of a thing because of that? Something needs to be done, and something needs to be done at the county level. Don't push it off on the BLM or on the BIA. The county needs to step up to this and do something about it. They've broken every agreement that they made with you. We knew they were going to do that from day one. Any agreement they're making with the state right now, they're going to break. They're in it for the money, and that's all they want. They could care less what it's doing to our neighborhoods up there. The other thing is you had a proclamation about the pollinators. You know what that dust is doing to all the plants and all the beehives that are around in that area up there? It's killing them all off. There's one hive all dead because of the dust. The trees, all the other natural growth that's out there, that's going to die also because it's all covered with dust. And the other thing is when they break through the ridge line and destroy the view, what are you going to do then?
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Mr. Gibson.
Jason Gibson, civil litigator on behalf of Douglas County Justice Coalition, correcting the affidavit for criminal conspiracy we dropped on this board on May 1st. Essentially asking for an investigation into true and correct statements that will lead to an overhaul, profound audit, and a rechartering of Douglas County. These are claims under the Deprivation of Rights under color of law, conspiracy to deprive us of our rights, kidnapping, and other criminal acts found to be true as discernible by the evidence on the record and is required by law. So that's on the record here today. I'm going to address a few of these agenda items. They just roll into the budget that should pass through an audit committee, but doesn't. We're supposed to have a backbone of 22 norms and procedure, small group meetings to assist the board with policy decision-making. That doesn't exist. We're not aware of any such norms and procedures or any kind of year-end reports that are required according to what's on our website. So I'll speak to these agenda items that passed close to $3 million for the Jalek Institution today. They just rolled that right in there. And a lot of this is like Agenda M, $1.7 million for bogus health care. Mental health practitioners who are paid over $600 an hour to mischaracterize you, to steal your identity, and to misrepresent you to the court, destroy your career, your good name, slander you to the community, and report on how mentally incompetent you are for speaking like this. We also see here under, what have we got? M, N, we've got R. R is another law enforcement center, $240K purchase to replace roofing materials, and Jalek remodel expenditures. We have $61,000 for the boiler room, Jalek boiler room. We got $650,000 for recon. So about $3 million in bogus health care and mental health services passed today. Just rolled it right into the budget like they do. Richie Rich and friends, making money hand over fist at our expense. Another $355,000 for the Axon Enterprises body-worn cameras, which most of those body-worn camera requests are buried, or when you get the evidence, it's fraught with some kind of password protection or some kind of firewall to prevent you from getting the information that you need. And that's why you didn't get a straightforward answer during that budget question when you asked law enforcement, how long do they keep those videos? They didn't answer you. And you know why they didn't answer you. And we took that up at the Education Board meeting, and we'll take it up again, you and I, Charlotte Hells, the commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Gibson. All right, I actually think I need to close public still have you come, but I technically need to close public comment because what we've asked you to share with us is not under our jurisdiction and control. So I'm going to close public comment and invite you just to share a little information as requested. Thank you, Ms. Wagstaff.
Absolutely. I'm glad I could be here today. Yvonne Wagstaff for the record, and I am currently the school board president. And to report, we do have graduation on Thursday night at 5:30 at the behind the school. I was able to attend the scholarship night, and we had, I want to say it was 55 or 56 kids that received scholarships. And they were all local scholarships that were handed out that night. And I want to say it was between $250,000 and $300,000 that were given to our students. And we are so proud of them and so grateful for what a wonderful community we live in that is willing to support our students going to college. So thank you very much.
Thank you for sharing that. That's wonderful. All right, if there's nothing else, we will adjourn. We are adjourned. I saw it, but I haven't looked at it yet.